Recording. So hello everybody. Unfortunately, I can't be present at your event, so hopefully this message will come in this online form. My name is Ivana Kulic. I am from Friends of the Earth International. I work for the working group that's working on gender justice and dismantling of patriarchy, but I'm locally based in Bosnia and Herzegovina in Center for Environment, where I'm leading the activist youth group, but I'm also quite attached to the rest of the programs that we are dealing. And one of the biggest programs in our organization is the energy program that's dealing with dirty thermal projects that are based on coal and the new trend of hydropower dams. So the hydropower dams are not a new thing, but the small hydropower dams are, and they are quite present in Bosnia. We have around 240 rivers, and the number of planned dams is 300. So basically almost on every river, and on several of them, even like 5 to 7 of dams are planned to be built. So what is the issue, if you're not much aware about this topic, is that the small hydropower dams are of no use to anybody. They are a big problem to the local community that's left without any water. They are a problem to our biodiversity, since they are usually not built in a good way, and the fish can't move properly. So we have one whole population of animals dying, and they are just making a lot of issues with like noise pollution and in general with the construction going on. But if it's that big number of them being built, somebody has some benefit from them. And who benefits? It's foreign companies that are building it in Balkans, since they can't do it in the European Union. And actually we had an Austrian activist who came to Bosnia and talked about the situation here. And he actually said that all of those things happened in Austria in like 70s. They destroyed 2 rivers and said, no, this is not happening. But now Austrian companies are coming here because we don't have those types of regulations. And bribe is another thing that's quite popular with the bad politics, and everybody's accepting it. So we have the foreign companies as owners and the private investors. The private investors are basically friends of the ruling party, the businessmen of this world. So we know that they just get these deals and subventions from the country. So they don't need to invest a lot of the money, but they get a lot of the money. And also because the constructions are from concrete, they're like a barrier on the river. The concrete companies are also the ones benefiting from it. So what is happening with when once you build a dam? So you destroy the biodiversity, you leave the community without any drinking water, and the amount of electricity energy that's generated is so small that it's not even worth mentioning. You can't power anything with that, and it's comparing to the sustainable sources of energy. It's in no textbook a good investment. So it's just a project for generating money for the people who already have it, and to kind of support their own projects besides that. And what is happening with the local communities is that they are left without drinking water. I have to emphasize that the Balkans are one of the regions known for the most clear drinking water, and almost in every village you can just go to the river and drink it, which is quite rare for the Europe, and something that we really need to protect and keep in our mind, and in generally in world with the current situation of pollution and climate change and droughts. So the local communities have been resisting the projects, but there is a big issue of threats going on. And obviously when you have big businessmen on one side and people from smaller communities, the violence is quite often used as a tool. So most commonly the threats are made by, the private security of those businessmen who go around the meetings of activists and, kind of fear monger around them. And the rest is also made that a lot of activists experience the online violence in a form of Facebook messages and threats in that form. So the current projects, so we haven't had any reports of physical violence. It's mostly in that realm of like verbal and online threats, and hopefully there will be no physical violence. But one big issue is the police that's also on the side of these investors, especially in small communities where, you know, people have this perception of police as some untouchable identity and a body. So police is quite aware of it and uses that quite often. Recently, we had an example of a Facebook group for the activists of one small community in Foča, and they were actually, you know, just discussing, and people were commenting the things on the post, and somebody mentioned like, we really need to get these machines out of our community, and the police saw that as like a violent extremist group, even though they're not reacting to any other form of violence. So what is also important to mention is that few days ago, it was a 3 years anniversary of attack on Kruščica women. That's a case where we had the direct link between women's rights and the rights for our protection of our rivers and water. The attack happened 3 years ago in a small village near Vitez in the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the local community was trying to protect the river. That is their like main resource for surviving, for the drinking water. But the investors starting without any permission the building on the construction site. So the local community blocked the bridge, and they had the continuous shifts of 24 hours, and somebody was present on that bridge to protect it. And on 1 August at 5 a.m., the group of women were protecting it, since they thought that the attacks wouldn't happen if, you know, they saw mothers and the children were present. But the private police came, the security guards, and they physically attacked the children, the women, and everybody present there. And because the connections are made, when they went to the big town Travnik, that's located nearby, to get a medical assistance, they weren't allowed to enter the hospital, and they weren't received proper care. So that was 3 years ago. The case was quite famous because of all the bad things that happened, but the good things happened, that those women were really brave and nobody could stop them. So that was kind of the inspiration for them to really even more protect their river. So they managed to save their local community and the river, but the threats were still ongoing on. And what is important to say is that at that point, we had a direct attack on women, since the security forces, they saw them, you know, as the weaker gender that can be frightened easily. And they thought, you know, if we attack them, that's it, our business is done, we are going to build this dam. But they don't realize the power that these women were holding. And just because they had those roles of mothers, of community guardians, they were really realizing what that water means to them. So from that example of Kruščica, we really saw that we need to connect the movements of environmentalists and feminist movements, because we all have the kind of our focus of the issues, but these issues are really intersectional, and we really need to approach them in that way. So what we are trying to build now is that when we have like community gatherings and support to the smaller communities, we always invite other NGOs and invite other groups, not just the ecological ones, to join us in this struggle and to spread the message. One thing is also that the Balkans, as a lot of the countries in the global south, is facing a lot of issues with the government versus non-governmental, you know, organizations, and a lot of restrictions want to be imposed to kind of stop us in our work. So this sector really needs to stick together to make things happen and to support each other, because nobody else is going to support us if we don't do it mutually. And what is really important is that a lot of people still in the Balkans don't really realize this importance of what is happening with climate change and why we need to protect the waters so much. Because there is this perception, you know, we have more than 200 rivers, what if we lose some? but even the smallest loss of a river can destroy the livelihoods.